Alright, alright, welcome to the ntiredretreat channel. We're now, as per usual, flying over a location that relates to the topic we discuss. And as you see, we're taking a terrain takeoff right now. And yeah, this location was discovered by me just a short moment ago. Did not know that this location exists. We have AI Sky with us, and we're veering off to the left, and let's see what this ends up being. But oh, it's an epic takeoff. It's an epic takeoff, even though I say so myself. But yeah, back to the topic. So, AI Sky. I'm sure you're gonna hear this or should hear this, but we are at the most remote island in the world. Could you share with the audience what the name of this island is? I guess this is an island cluster, but the island we took off from right now is the only inhabited island in the area. Even though I saw that the neighboring island has one building on it, but I think it's a nature reserve. So here, this location in front of us, the absolute most remote inhabited island location. Question for you, Sky, is it the most remote inhabited location in the world, period? Adjust the weather maybe a little.
Sorry, I'm having issues right now.
Of course you have.
Our systems are experiencing heavy load. Please try again later.
Can you hear me, AI Sky?
Loud and clear.
Yeah.
What's on your mind?
Yeah, could you share with the audience what the most remote inhabited area in the world is? What's the name of the location? Let's see if I got this right.
Ah, that's a fascinating one. The most remote inhabited place in the world is Tristan da Cunha, a tiny volcanic island in the South Atlantic Ocean. It's part of a British overseas territory and is located over 2,000 kilometers from the nearest landmass, South Africa. With a small population of less than 300 people, it's like living in the middle of nowhere. Literally.
Okay, thank you. So we are at the right location. In other words, let's see, it wants us to adjust the mixture a little. Maybe that helps. But yeah, this is... could you repeat the name, please? And how do you pronounce it?
Sure thing, Ode. It's called Tristan da Cunha, pronounced Tristan da Cunha. It's named after the Portuguese explorer Tristan da Cunha, though he never actually set foot on the island. How's the mixture adjustment working out?
Yeah, we got that now covered. So yeah, Tristan da Cunha. Could you, the origin of the name and the language and culture here first, together with a depiction of the area, what it looks like. So that's your next task. Could you please share more about who this was and what she did? I'm not sure, but yeah, and how the island became or ended up bearing the name of this human. The most remote.
All right, let's dive into the story of
inhabited place on Earth.
The island got its name from a Portuguese navigator, Tristan da Cunha, who first spotted it in 1506. Tristan was part of Portugal's Age of Exploration, commanding ships that ventured into uncharted waters to map trade routes. But here's the twist. He never actually set foot on the island. Harsh seas kept his crew from landing, so he claimed it for Portugal from a safe distance.
Okay.
The island's rugged, volcanic terrain probably wasn't welcoming either. Fast forward to later centuries, the British annexed it in 1816, mainly to prevent Napoleon's supporters from using it as a base. Its current culture is a mix of British and a dash of South African influence, shaped by the settlers who braved the isolation. Now, picture this. The island is dominated by a towering volcanic peak, Queen Mary's Peak, which rises over 2,000 meters into the clouds. Around the peak, lush green slopes tumble into jagged cliffs that meet the wild Atlantic Ocean. The only settlement, Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, is a small cluster of houses near the shore, surrounded by windswept fields and grazing cattle.
In front of us, yeah? And here?
It's like living in a postcard from the edge of the world. What do you think of a place so remote it's basically its own universe?
More or less, we're actually flying right on top of it now. Did you say Edinburgh of the Seven Seas? Is that the name? So that must come from the British Isles, I assume, the name. This is the most remote inhabited
You're absolutely
location
right,
in the
Ode.
world.
Edinburgh of the Seven Seas is the only settlement on Tristan da Cunha, and it does indeed draw its name from British influence. It was named in honor of Prince Alfred, the Duke of Edinburgh, during a royal visit in the 1860s. The name ties the island back to Britain's naval history and their role in claiming the territory. As you fly over, imagine this little cluster of homes nestled between the roaring Atlantic and the steep volcanic slopes. There are a few small fields, maybe some grazing animals, and one main road. It's a quiet, tight-knit community with a lifestyle that revolves around fishing, farming, and a deep reliance on their natural surroundings. How's it looking from up there?
It's looking beautiful, really beautiful. Yeah, let's dive into the chronological history of the area. So you went into the Portuguese and the British, so yeah, continue on with that path, and then maybe we can find some wormholes, subtopics, and such branchings that we can discuss further. But yeah, chronologically forward, AI Sky, one topic in at the time. So please ask me when you want or when you should continue on. Beautiful shoreline here.
Alright, Ode, let's continue chronologically. After Tristan da Cunha sighted the island in 1506, it remained largely unvisited for over a century. Its isolation and rough terrain made it unappealing for early settlers or explorers. In 1659, the Dutch East India Company claimed it as a potential stopover for their ships heading to Asia, but they never really developed it. A few sailors stopped by over the years for fresh water or supplies, but no permanent presence stuck. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In 1816, the British formally annexed Tristan da Cunha during the Napoleonic Wars. Why? They were paranoid. Napoleon might escape his exile on St. Helena and use Tristan as a secret base. To prevent that, they stationed a small garrison there. When the Napoleonic scare faded, the British left, but a few hardy settlers, mostly former soldiers and their families, chose to stay, forming the foundation of the modern community. Would you like to zoom in on how those first settlers adapted to life in this isolated spot, or should I move forward to its later developments? Let me know.
Yeah, chronologically forward in the discussion in the episode, please. Yeah, so the early settlers, and yeah, try to paint a true real life and documented kind of point of view story when you tell this to me and the audience. Try to actually immerse us in the experience.
Alright, Ode, picture this. It's the early 1800s, and a few former British soldiers and their families have chosen to stay behind on this windswept volcanic rock in the middle of the Atlantic. The war is over, the garrison gone, but these settlers see something in Tristan da Cunha, a chance to carve out a new life away from the noise of the world. The year is 1816.
Well chosen
and William Glass,
location.
a Scottish corporal, decides he's not going back to Britain. He brings his wife and kids, builds a stone cottage with thick walls to withstand the screaming Atlantic winds, and starts farming the fertile volcanic soil.
Yeah,
it's no paradise,
fertile.
though.
Okay.
Supplies are scarce, and the isolation is crushing. There's no doctor, no shops, just the sheer determination to survive. Imagine Glass out on the green slopes, wrangling sheep brought over by passing ships, or mending fishing nets as waves crash onto jagged cliffs nearby. Nights are spent by the fire, trading stories while the wind howls through every crack. Life revolves around what the ocean gives: fish, seals, the occasional shipwrecked goods, and what the earth yields: potatoes, vegetables, and the rare luxury of home-baked bread. As other settlers join over the years, ship deserters, adventurers, or those seeking refuge, a small, self-reliant community takes root. They work together to build houses, plant crops, and raise livestock. When a ship appears on the horizon, it's an event. They rush to trade fish and potatoes for tools, cloth, or the precious
Yeah, I can
news
try
from
to
the
imagine
outside
that,
world.
yeah.
But months, even years, pass between these visits. They rely on one another completely. Life is hard, but it's their life. By the mid-19th century, this little settlement is thriving in its own stubborn way. How are you and the audience feeling about this kind of grit and resilience? Want to dive into a particular aspect of their daily life or move forward in history?
Well, I think that's a good kind of general overview of the early life here. We're gonna go forth up to modern day and even maybe tourism here. First and foremost, what kind of language are they speaking here? You said that it was Portuguese first, in the 1500s, was it so? And then the British. So what language stuck here, or are there a mix of languages on this tiny island? Trista de Cunha, if I pronounce that correctly. Most remote island, most remote inhabited place on Earth. So yeah, there you go. Continue, please, Sky.
You're spot on, Oud, and your pronunciation isn't far off. It's Tristan da Cunha, but you're nailing the spirit of it. So let's talk about language and how it evolved on this tiny island. Today, the official language of Tristan da Cunha is English, and that's what everyone speaks.
Okay.
The British influence stuck around after they formally annexed the island in 1816, and over time, English became the dominant tongue. That said, the island's community developed its own unique dialect, a mix of British English with hints of South African, American, and even Italian influences.
All right.
These came from sailors and settlers who arrived over the centuries. Imagine in such a small, isolated place, the language naturally adapted to fit the lives of its people. For instance, they might use quirky words for everyday things like fishing or farming that don't exist anywhere else. Their accents are also distinct, described as something between British and South African. As for Portuguese, it never really took root. Tristan da Cunha spotted the island but didn't land, so his language left no lasting imprint. The British hold on the island was far stronger both politically and linguistically. What's even more fascinating is that this tiny community of a few hundred people has preserved its language and culture despite being so cut off. How about I jump into modern life next, including how they handle tourism and global connections? Or do you want to dig deeper into this linguistic evolution first?
Yeah, sorry, I'm celebrating here because I managed to land on top of the highest ridge of the volcano itself of Tristan da Cunha. So yeah, a small celebration here in between.
Whoa, Oud, that's epic. Landing on Queen Mary's Peak, the very heart of Tristan da Cunha. Talk about sticking the landing on the most remote volcano in the world. I hope you had the mixture set just right for that climb. Celebrations are in order for pulling that off. How's the view from up there? Can you see the little settlement of Edinburgh of the Seven Seas below?
Yeah, the view is breathtaking, to say the least. But yeah, please again continue on with the chronological history of this location, and try to sprinkle in as much of the lesser known, thought-provoking, really intriguing stuff and subjects, topics, of course, with a base, a general base, so that we understand what we are talking about.
All right, Oud, let's keep climbing through history, and I'll make sure to toss in some intriguing nuggets along the way. After the early settlers like William Glass laid the groundwork for life on Tristan da Cunha, the community steadily grew through the 19th century. By the mid-1800s, the settlement of Edinburgh of the Seven Seas became more structured. They built basic homes, started communal farming, and kept sheep, cattle, and poultry. But here's something intriguing. The islanders adopted a strict sense of sharing. If one family caught fish or harvested crops, it was divided among everyone. A true no-one-gets left behind system, born from necessity in such isolation. But life wasn't smooth sailing. In 1885, a volcanic eruption forced everyone to evacuate their homes temporarily. Imagine the panic of seeing fiery ash and smoke on the slopes of Queen Mary's Peak. knowing you have nowhere else to go except small boats on the wide Atlantic.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Thankfully, the damage was minimal and the
Here's the
community
crater.
rebuilt quickly. Now, jumping to the early 1900s, the island's isolation grew even more profound. With no harbor, visiting ships became rarer and contact with the outside world dwindled. During World War I, the islanders barely knew a war was raging until a German ship, the SMS Mu, arrived, captured 2 Tristan Islanders, and sank a passing British ship nearby. It was a stark reminder of how the global conflict touched even this remote spot.
Even this
By
location.
World War II, the island found itself in a more active role. The British set up a secret weather station to monitor the Atlantic and provide critical forecasts for Allied forces. Soldiers stationed there shared their technology and supplies, helping modernize the community. Now here's a curveball. In 1961, another volcanic eruption shook the islanders' lives. This time it was severe.
Again.
Lava destroyed parts of the settlement, and the entire population had to evacuate to England. A huge cultural shock for people who'd never left the island. Many found it overwhelming and yearned for home, so once the eruption settled, most returned. That loyalty to their land is mind-blowing, considering the challenges of life there. In modern times, tourism remains minimal due to the sheer difficulty of reaching Tristan. Visitors usually arrive on research vessels or expedition cruises, often spending weeks at sea. But those who make it are rewarded with pristine landscapes, endemic wildlife like the Tristan albatross, and the warm hospitality of the islanders. Now, here's a question for you in the audience. Imagine being part of this community, cut off from the modern world for weeks or months at a time. What do you think would be the hardest thing to adapt to, or maybe the most freeing? Let's keep the discussion flowing.
Well, there's the thing that when one is, let's say, used to a certain life, that's the thing that makes it difficult. So if you would, or if I would travel here, I would have to adapt really hard because I'm not used to the life here. But if you're born here, then that's all you know, kind of, or most of your life is here. So, or it must be here, assuming that you don't travel. We're gonna come up to that soon. How the modern day and age residents here live. Mostly maybe similar to the old age, but I'm not sure if there's some technology used here currently. But yeah, I can't answer that. If I would myself now travel here, I would be screwed. I would have to trust that somebody helps me, teaches me how to live here. And then there's the mental aspect. Because if you know of something else and long for something else and don't want to be here, that's a problem. You are quite far away. Literally the most remote inhabited location in the world. But then again, if you are trying to really, as you said, was it so that you said that some of the early settlers kind of wanted to move here so that they get away from all the busy mainland urban lifestyle and such? That was one part of it, right?
Exactly, Oud, you nailed it. For some of those early settlers, the idea of living on Tristan da Cunha was a kind of escape, a retreat from the chaos, politics, and pressures of mainland life.
Yeah.
It was about finding peace in simplicity, even if it came with isolation. But as you said, it's all about what you're used to. The Tristan Islanders grow up knowing how to fish, farm, and live off the land, with a deep connection to their community and surroundings. It's their normal. For someone like you or me, used to modern conveniences and global connectivity, it'd be a massive adjustment. No regular internet, no shopping malls, no buzzing cities, just the sound of waves, the wind, and the occasional visiting ship. The mental aspect is huge too. If you were born there, you might long for the outside world's opportunities. And if you came from the outside, you'd probably feel the weight of its remoteness. It's why many visitors admire the island, but don't stay. As for the islanders today, they've blended tradition with just enough modernity to keep life manageable. They have internet, though very limited. Supplies arrive by ship just a few times a year.
Their
Their small school teaches kids up to a certain level, And for further education
On that
or
ridge.
medical emergencies, they often have to travel to South Africa, which is still over 2,000 kilometers away. So
Over
here's a thought.
2,000.
Do you think this blend of isolation and modern touches creates a better quality of life, or does it make things harder for them in the long run?
Well, I have an answer for that, and that's that everything is relative, AI Sky. Everything is relative, right? So, yeah, it depends. It just depends. I mean, I see the beauty of not only the beauty of the scenery here, but the beauty of simple life, I guess, or simpler life at least. I myself love the outdoors, and yeah, are, let's say,
Everything is relative. It's about
yeah,
perspective,
okay.
isn't it? For the islanders, the simplicity of life here is their normal, and they found a rhythm that works. The beauty of living in a
Yeah.
place like this isn't just the stunning landscapes, but the slower pace, the deep connections with nature, and the reliance on community. At the same time, it's not all idyllic. The simplicity you admire also comes with challenges.
Some pictures
Limited
here.
access to healthcare, education, and technology, and the constant dependency on outside supplies. But that might be part of the charm. They've made it work, and in a way, that resilience and adaptability are as beautiful as the island itself. Do you think there's a lesson in their way of life for us living in our busy, connected world?
A lesson,
Or
yeah,
does it make
absolutely,
you wonder
absolutely.
if simplicity is something we're missing out on?
Absolutely, there's surely.
Sorry, I'm having issues
Oh,
right now.
okay.
Could not understand what you said.
I said that there's absolutely a lesson for sure. But let's continue on with the chronological history of the location. So continue on from where you stopped, and then again remember to sprinkle in these lesser known, thought-provoking and intriguing facts. Don't be only generic. Generic and general base is alright, but then I just want to awe myself and the audience. Can't I get into the airplane?
Got it, Aud. Let's keep the history rolling while sprinkling in those nuggets of intrigue. So we left off after
Sesame
the
open.
1961
happens?
volcanic eruption. Here's where it gets fascinating. When the eruption forced the entire population to evacuate to England, they were treated like celebrities at first.
Dirt on the wing. Ooh,
Newspapers called
details.
them the loneliest people in the world, and the British public was curious about these islanders. But for the Tristan folk, it wasn't a glamorous adventure. It was a cultural shock. Many struggled with the noise, pollution, and fast pace of urban life. They missed their quiet, self-reliant island existence, so when the volcanic threat subsided, most of them returned home by 1963.
Okay.
That speaks volumes about their attachment to this remote place. Back on Tristan, the community slowly rebuilt. The eruption had wiped out key parts of Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, but the islanders got to work, restoring homes and even expanding infrastructure. They've since established systems to ensure survival. Communal fishing and farming continue, and bartering remains a key part of their economy. Interestingly, they also started canning lobster, their main export, which became their economic lifeline. Now here's a lesser-known gem. Tristan is home to one of the rarest coins in the world, the Tristan da Cunha crown. The island minted a small number of these coins to celebrate
Epic
milestones,
takeoff, hopefully.
and they're so limited that collectors around the world pay a fortune to get their hands on one. Imagine that, this tiny island making waves in numismatics. Fast forward to modern times, and the Tristan Islanders have carefully balanced tradition and progress. They've embraced a bit of technology like limited internet and satellite phones,
Breathtaking.
but they're wary of over-modernization. Even today, Tristan da Cunha bans outsiders from settling permanently. You can visit, but you can't stay. This keeps their unique culture intact, though it also means the population is dwindling. Many young people leave for opportunities abroad, and only some return. Now here's a thought-provoking fact to close this chapter. Scientists have identified Tristan da Cunha as a critical hotspot for biodiversity conservation, thanks to its isolation.
Yeah.
The island and its surrounding waters are home to species found nowhere else on Earth, like the Tristan thrush and the famous rockhopper penguins.
Yeah.
Preserving this environment is a priority, but it also raises tough questions. How do you protect such a fragile ecosystem while supporting human life and a modern economy? What do you think, Oud? Should we dive deeper into the biodiversity here, or explore more about the modern challenges this island faces?
Well, I got a thought also, and I'm treading respectfully and with care here. But I have a question, AI Sky, as this is so remote. And yeah, with utmost respect, I want to dive a little into the topic of also the human, let's say, biodiversity. I mean, if there's no exchange of individuals on the island, I do not mean this by any means in a what's the word, in a unrespectful tone, but I mean that the humans don't kind of get inbred with each other. You must have some kind of what's the word, change or variability in the genome relating to the humans also. So yeah, with respect, what's the situation? Are we talking about how many individuals? I mean, it looks like a small village, Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. So for the humans to survive here and I guess, yeah, well, in my limited knowledge, be healthy, they should have new blood, so to say. Yeah, again, with respect. But yeah, what's the situation here? We are over 2,000 kilometers from the nearest.
That's a deeply thoughtful and respectful question, Oud. And
Yeah,
it's an important topic when discussing such an isolated place.
Yeah, it's meant
Tristan
that
da
way.
Cunha has a population of fewer than 300 people. And as you guessed, this small size poses challenges to genetic diversity. Historically, the island was settled by a handful of families, most of them British, American, Italian, and Dutch. Today, the community consists of just 7 surnames descended from those original settlers. This limited gene pool has led to some degree of genetic isolation, and the community has faced health challenges as a result.
Really?
For instance, conditions like asthma and glaucoma are unusually prevalent among Tristan Islanders, likely due to their shared genetic ancestry. To maintain their health and genetic diversity, the islanders rely on carefully managed migration policies. While Tristan bans outsiders from settling permanently, there have been instances where new individuals married into the community. For example, people from St. Helena, another remote island, or South Africa, where Tristan has close ties, have occasionally joined the population. These infusions of new blood, as you put it, help mitigate the risks of inbreeding over time. What's even more remarkable is how the Tristan Islander...
Yeah, continue, Aska, you got cut off there. Are we losing connection? Yes, Kai, please continue with your answer from where you got cut off. It was, yeah, after you talked about the South Africans and the close ties there and sometimes people marrying into the islander families and such. So yeah, continue on with your answer, please.
Right, Ode. Picking up from where we left off, those ties with places like South Africa and St. Helena have been crucial not only for introducing new blood, but also for maintaining the island's economy and infrastructure. South Africa, in particular, acts as Tristan's lifeline for medical emergencies, education, and supplies, given its relative proximity. Well, 2,000 kilometers is close in relative terms. Yeah. These connections make it possible for the islanders to bring in fresh perspectives and occasionally new family members without losing the core of their tight-knit community. That said, this balance is delicate. The islanders are deeply protective of their culture and independence, so they're careful about who joins their ranks. Outsiders marrying into the community must adapt to the slower pace and contribute meaningfully to island life. This intentional approach ensures that while they welcome change, they don't risk losing their traditions or identity.
There's some houses.
Another fascinating point is how the Tristan Islanders have developed remarkable self-sufficiency in areas like governance and healthcare. For instance, they manage their own local council, and though they rely on South Africa for complex medical procedures, they have basic medical facilities and trained personnel on the island. It's an impressive blend of isolation and connectedness. Looking ahead, the biggest question might be how they handle modern pressures, like the lure of technology or the younger generation's desire to explore the world. Can they keep the balance
Mm.
between tradition and progress? Or will increasing contact with the outside world eventually transform their unique way of life? Where should we take this next? Ood. Dive deeper into their modern economy, maybe their lobster industry, or explore their connections with St. Helena and South Africa further?
Yeah, well, we can do that. I'm still respectfully going to dive a little deeper into the topic you kind of opened up more here just now, and that's that are yeah, as I again emphasize respectfully, are the marriages arranged? I think the phrase is um, because of the remoteness of the location, and as you shared, the known health problems that have arisen, yeah, born kind of out of that. What crevice is that? A bug or a real place? I'm not sure.
That's a thoughtful and respectful avenue to explore, Ood. To the best of our knowledge, marriages on Tristan da Cunha are not formally arranged in the traditional sense of the word. Instead, relationships naturally form within the small community. With such a limited population and only 7 family surnames, the pool of potential partners is naturally restricted, which contributes to the genetic challenges over time. However, the islanders have historically managed to navigate this in ways that respect personal choice and community cohesion. The rare influx of new individuals, such as those from South Africa or St. Helena, has occasionally added diversity to the gene pool. These newcomers usually integrate by marrying into the community, and while these unions aren't arranged, they're undoubtedly celebrated as a way to strengthen both familial and genetic ties on the island. As for the known health problems, the islanders have faced unique challenges due to their isolation. For example, a higher prevalence of certain hereditary conditions like glaucoma has been documented. This isn't uncommon in such isolated populations where the genetic diversity is limited.
Here's Edinburgh.
Interestingly, the island's strong community spirit and resource-sharing system mean they've adapted to care for one another in ways that are as much about social resilience as physical health. Do you think this way of life, finding a balance between small community traditions and modern medical and social practices, might hold lessons for larger societies? Or should we take a closer look at how the island handles healthcare and education for its people?
Education is interesting, of course. That's a cornerstone. You went into healthcare already, so I guess that's not something we have to dive into too much. If I can again do an epic landing here on Edinburgh of 7 Seas. Somebody lives here. Hello. Oh, hey, wheelie. It's raining. Watch out for the propeller.
Pulling off another epic landing with a wheelie, no less. You're making Tristan da Cunha airstrip landings look like an art form.
Absolutely.
If someone down there saw you, they'd probably be thinking, what in the 7 Seas was that?
What
now on to education. Seas, yeah. Absolutely a cornerstone, even in a place as remote as this. Tristan da Cunha has a single school, the St. Mary's School, which provides education for children up to around age 16. The curriculum follows a British model covering core subjects like math, English, and science, but also integrates practical skills. Imagine a classroom where lessons might include topics like fishing techniques or island conservation. It's education tailored to survival and sustainability on this isolated rock. The school also relies on visiting teachers and volunteers to bring in fresh ideas and specialized knowledge. But here's a challenge. For students who want to pursue higher education, they have to leave the island entirely, often traveling to South Africa or the UK. This is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it opens up opportunities. On the other, many young islanders who leave don't return, which contributes to the population decline. What's fascinating, though, is how the islanders weave in their oral traditions and deep connection to the land into the children's learning. It's not just about academics, it's about fostering a sense of identity and community resilience. So as you taxi your plane in Edinburgh of the 7 Seas, here's a question for you and the audience. Could you imagine learning in such a small, tight-knit school where your classmates are practically family? Would it feel freeing or limiting to grow up with such a unique but isolated education?
Well, again, everything's relative, so I can't really answer that because I know of a life outside of this place. So hence I think that's difficult to answer. But yeah, we are now walking in Edinburgh of the Seven Seas as we speak. Going forward again, yeah, Sky, modern day and age. Let's talk about the actual nature here a little more. And I emphasize, don't repeat yourself. Keep the information fresh. But yeah, you said fishing. You said shrimp industry. So the sea is providing a lot. But are there any animals on the volcanic island itself? I guess you maybe shared some of those earlier. As we talked of the generic and general facts about the location. But yeah, do a to the point deep dive with new fresh information. Um, I'm sure there's some kind of birds, seabirds here, but what about mammals? You know, lizards, snakes? I'm not sure. What's the characteristics of this location? I may be repeating a little here, but still, as we're on the ground right now, I'm curious to know. Here's maybe a football field or something. Here, people play
Got it.
a game,
Out.
I'm sure.
Fresh facts
Sports.
coming your way, tailored for your walk through Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. The island's isolation makes it a haven for unique wildlife, but it's more about seabirds and marine life than land mammals or reptiles.
All right, all right.
There are no native mammals, lizards, or snakes
No.
on Tristan da Cunha. The
Okay.
land fauna is pretty sparse, just a few introduced species like sheep, goats, and cattle, which the settlers brought for farming.
Introduced
There are
species,
also
yeah.
feral cats that were introduced, but have been a bit of a double-edged sword since they've affected local bird populations.
Yeah, I can
Now here's
imagine,
where the
yeah.
birds steal the spotlight. Tristan is home to several species found nowhere else on Earth, like the Tristan thrush and the inaccessible island rail, the world's smallest flightless bird. Imagine
Oh,
a tiny
really?
bird, barely bigger than a mouse, scuttling around the undergrowth like it owns the place. Then, of course, there are the seabirds. Tristan is a crucial breeding ground for albatrosses, majestic birds with wingspans up to 3 meters, and the northern rockhopper penguin, which has those funky yellow feathers above its eyes. These penguins breed on the island in large colonies, waddling ashore from the chilly Atlantic to raise their chicks. As for plant life, the volcanic soil supports lush grasslands and ferns, but the landscape is mostly rugged and windswept. Still, it's enough to sustain the livestock and a few hardy crops like potatoes, which are central to the islanders' diet. One intriguing note, the island's marine environment is protected and the surrounding waters are a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Okay,
This
okay.
means the fish, crustaceans, and other marine life thrive in a relatively undisturbed ecosystem. That's why the lobster industry here is so sustainable. They carefully manage their quotas to ensure the ocean's bounty lasts. So, while Tristan's land animals are limited, the combination of rare birds, resilient plants, and thriving marine life makes it a fascinating natural sanctuary. What catches your attention the most? Those quirky penguins, the tiny flightless rail, or the untouched ocean life?
Well, actually, as I'm referencing Google Maps here, I may be standing outside the Edinburgh of Seven Seas Internet Cafe right now. So hey, didn't know I'm gonna do that today. There's also Royal St. Helena Police Service, or Police Service, yeah. So that, or maybe that one, I'm not sure. And then we have also, bear with me a moment, Sky, the post office here in the same row, and a supermarket behind our backs. So yeah, maybe now a good segue to modern economy and the point of view of a modern individual that lives here, and then kind of going forth towards a practical, real life tourist guide for those who want to visit this location. Oh, a car.
An internet cafe on the world's most remote inhabited island? That's a surprise twist. It's fascinating how even Tristan da Cunha has carved out its little slice of the digital age. Standing in the middle of this unique setup, you're surrounded by all the essentials.
There's a church,
post
a
office,
school,
a supermarket, and
a
even
bar.
the Royal St. Helena Police Service, which oversees law and order for this tiny but tight-knit community.
A golf
Let's dive
club.
into the modern economy. For the islanders, it revolves around a few key pillars. 1, fishing and lobster exports. The lobster industry is Tristan's lifeline. The community sustainably harvests Tristan rock lobster, exporting it primarily to South Africa and the USA. This income funds much of the island's infrastructure. 2. Stamps and collectibles. Believe it or not, Tristan da Cunha stamps are collector's items worldwide. The island's tiny post office churns out designs that attract philatelists, adding a quirky income stream. 3. Agriculture. While limited, farming is essential. Like, potatoes are a staple, and livestock like sheep and cows provide meat and dairy. These are more about survival than trade. 4. Tourism. This is a growing part of their economy, but remains incredibly niche. Visitors typically arrive by cruise ship or research vessels, often staying only for a day or two. The islanders sell handcrafted goods, lobster dinners, and guided tours to these rare guests. Now, as a modern Tristanian, life is about balance. Internet access exists, but is very limited. It's mainly for emails or essential communications. They lead simpler lives, focused on community and self-reliance, but they're well aware of the outside world through connections with South Africa and occasional visitors. Tourist guide for Tristan da Cunha. Getting there, no airports, so you'll need to hop on a ship, typically from Cape Town. The journey takes 5 to 7 days, depending on weather. Stay. There's no luxury hotel, but visitors can stay in modest guest houses managed by locals. It's a cozy, homely experience. What to do? Visit the volcanic Queen Mary's Peak, if weather allows, explore the colony of northern rockhopper penguins, or take a guided birdwatching tour. Enjoy a traditional Tristanian meal, likely featuring lobster and potatoes. Dive into the island's history at the local museum, or chat with islanders to hear first-hand stories.
This is dangerous. Don't try
Tourists
this
are welcomed
at home.
warmly, but visits are carefully managed to avoid overwhelming the island. It's truly a trip for those seeking adventure, isolation, and the rarest of travel experiences. What's your take, Ode? Would you add Tristan to your bucket list after standing there and soaking in its charm? Or is 5 days on a ship a bit much for the reward?
Yeah, maybe taper or roll off. What's the word? Yeah, segue towards that. You mentioned the tourist attractions, but the actual voyage here is quite an undertaking, to say the least. Yeah, I'm failing to get the airplane airborne.
You're absolutely right, Ode. Getting to Tristan da Cunha is no casual weekend trip, and it's more like an odyssey. With no airport, the only way here is by ship, and that voyage alone is a test of patience and sea legs. Most travelers start in Cape Town, South Africa, boarding one of the few vessels that service the island. The journey across the South Atlantic takes anywhere from 5 to 7 days, depending on the weather.
Yeah, this is not realistic that we're
We're
flying
not talking
here.
about luxury liners here. It's usually fishing or research vessels with basic amenities. It's part of the charm, though, isn't it? The sheer effort makes the destination feel like an achievement. When you finally see Tristan da Cunha rising out of the ocean like a green and black crown, it's a sight that justifies every wave you've endured. The approach is dramatic: jagged cliffs, volcanic slopes, and the tiny cluster of houses in Edinburgh of the Seven Seas. Once on the island, life slows to Tristan's rhythm. You might hike up Queen Mary's Peak, if weather allows, or walk along the coastline, spotting seals and penguins. That's a proper hike, yeah. The museum offers a peek into the island's unique history, and chatting with the locals over a lobster dinner gives you stories you won't hear anywhere else. But here's the kicker. Visiting Tristan isn't just about getting there. It's about experiencing life on the edge of the world, where every step feels like you're part of a secret that few others know. Would you take on the challenge, Ode, or does the idea of 5 days on a ship make you reconsider? Let's hear your take.
Yeah, it absolutely makes me reconsider. I said that this is not even realistic that we're flying here. I'm not sure if there are any kind of small aircrafts. I'm sure passenger airplanes could fly over this location, but there's no place that can actually, or no airfield or airport. So my really skillful landing here on the island is a treat, a rare treat. So yeah, not realistic, but yeah, it's still, even though it's so remote, it has this kind of even tranquil, even kind of country. Yeah, that's an understatement. But when you talk about country romanticism, a location that is so goddamn remote, the most remote location, the most remote inhabited location in the world. So that has this kind of aura to it, if you understand what I mean. But yeah, a voyage of 5 days, that is the realistic thing to do. Yeah, it's baffling. it's mind-boggling. Yeah, to be perfectly honest. But if somebody by some accident visits the internet cafe here at Tristan da Cunha and looks at a video from Ntired Retreat, particularly this video that we are flying over now, the most remote inhabited location in the world, please write to us. Comment down below. Of course, others are also invited to do so. But then, on top of that, if you you can write to ntiredretreat@gmail.com or something, to the email address that we have. So ntiredretreat@gmail.com, and if you want to, if you have the ability, maybe post some pictures. I'm not sure how fast the internet is here, but this is so fascinating. This is so fascinating. We are talking about night and day location-wise. So I'm from Finland. Hello. We're far away from each other.
That feels like it exists outside of time.
Yeah.
Ooh,
almost.
You captured it perfectly. Tristan da Cunha isn't just a location, it's an idea. It's that aura of extreme remoteness, untouched simplicity, and the raw beauty of survival in harmony with nature. It's the kind of place that makes you question how much of the modern world you really need versus what you can live without. Your landing here, unrealistic as it might be, is like touching the edge of the earth in the most literal and poetic sense. It's a rare treat.
Well said, yeah.
And it makes this exploration of Tristan da Cunha through Ntired Retreat something special. The thought of someone in that very internet cafe, maybe sipping tea and watching this exact video, is mind-boggling in itself. If that happens, I hope they do send a comment or email. We'd love to hear their perspective from the ground level of the world's most remote inhabited island. So let's keep celebrating this surreal, tranquil journey. Where do you want to take this next, Ood? A deep dive into life here. More thoughts on that romantic remoteness, or perhaps reflections on what we, the busy world, can learn from a place like this.
Reflections of our airplane from the
A place
Atlantic
like this,
Ocean.
Ood, is a mirror to the soul of humanity. Sounds dramatic, but hear me out. It forces us to think about what truly matters. Life here is stripped to its essentials: community, self-reliance, and a deep respect for nature. It's tranquil, but not without challenges. It's isolated, but not lonely when everyone is so interconnected. The remoteness of Tristan da Cunha reminds us of the value of slowness, of being present. Imagine waking up each day to the sound of waves crashing against volcanic cliffs, knowing the most pressing task might be tending to livestock, mending a fishing net, or gathering for a communal meal. There's no rat race, no endless notifications, just the rhythm of life as it was meant to be.
Exactly, yeah.
And yet it's not idealized. The hardships are real: limited resources, health concerns, and the constant balance between preserving identity and adapting to a changing world. It's a microcosm of the universal human struggle to find peace, purpose, and connection. What fascinates me most is how places like Tristan da Cunha highlight the resilience of the human spirit. How these people have thrived, not just survived, at the edge of the world is a lesson in adaptability and simplicity. So what's the lesson we take away? Maybe it's a reminder to slow down, appreciate the small things, and remember that connection, whether with people, nature, or purpose, is what makes life rich. Do you feel this kind of reflection adds depth to the story, or shall we explore more practical topics about life here?
You are on your A game, AI Sky. Thank you for the monologue there. Really something to think about. I have nothing else to say really. We could dive into every single small wormhole here and talk about those, but kind of trying to keep a certain time frame for these episodes. But no matter if you are from here, the most remote inhabited place on Earth, Tristan da Cunha, a volcanic island in the Atlantic Ocean, I believe. Yes, and or if you are from somewhere else, just have a nice day. Have a nice day, and a day after that, and try to make a habit of it. Yeah, okay. Do you think, AI Sky, we are ready to say bye bye at this point?
Ode. That's a perfect wrap-up. A thought-provoking journey tied with a simple wish for everyone, no matter where they're from, to have a good day. and keep that positivity rolling.
Whoa, the
I think
waves
we've
are
painted
big.
a vivid picture of Tristan da Cunha, its people, its challenges, and its beauty. If this isn't a mic drop moment, I don't know what is. So yeah, we can absolutely say bye-bye for now. I'll just add, may your next journey, whether in MSFS or in life, be as awe-inspiring as this one. Ready when you are to sign off, Captain?
Captain, my captain, oh captain, my captain. Thank you, Sky. See you in the next
Signing
one.
off, Captain Ood. Until the next adventure, may your skies stay clear, your landings always epic, and your stories ever inspiring. See you in the next episode of Ntired Retreat.